All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to adQ&A Live, episode 14. Today, we are talking about audience overlap. What is it? Should you care? What should you do about it? And all of that stuff. So let's jump right into it. Real quick, I'm Nick Sinitra, and let's see. So what it is, you've got a couple different audiences. Let's say they're different prospecting audiences. One of them is maybe a 1% lookalike on past purchasers, and then maybe one of them is a 1% lookalike on past purchasers of a particular product, right? So you all know by now that I love drawing circles, so true to form, we're going to draw some circles. So here is one of them, and here is the other one. So approximately similar size. Remember that with Facebook lookalike audiences, a 1% audience based on any seed list is always going to spit out a maximum potential reach of 2.2 million, right? So now let's put some numbers on here and let's look at a couple scenarios and understand whether or not this overlap is a bad thing. So quick labels, this is 1% LAL, we'll call this AP for all purchasers. And then this one is a 1% lookalike, and we'll call it specific purchasers, right? So there's some overlap here because some of the people in this group are going to be the same, right? Okay, now let's put some numbers on here in terms of amount of budget and CPAs. So in terms of budget, each one of these audiences is spending 50K. Each one of, I should say, each one of the ad sets that's targeting this, this audience, right? So 50K, and let's say that one of these is at a $50 CPA, and let's say that the other one is at maybe a $55 CPA. All right, so you've got some overlap. So what's the deal with the overlap? Like, what's the implication here? Well, it could be that the reason that this one is 50 and this one is 55 is because you're competing with yourself, right? So let's say in a scenario where you're able to eliminate this overlap, it is possible that these CPAs would come down because you're essentially not competing with yourself and maybe your CPMs go down. So how would we approach that? Well, one way would be to go in and basically eliminate, essentially exclude one of these audiences from the other. So let's say in scenario A, you go, all right, I'm gonna have this be kind of like the anchor, the 1% lookalike on all purchasers, and I'm gonna go ahead and exclude this audience from this one, right? So I'm gonna exclude the 1% lookalike of specific purchasers. So what will happen then is that this new audience basically just is this moon-shaped chunk here, right? So you've basically taken the overlap and you've removed it. So now this goes away and your new audience is essentially just, we'll just sketch it in a little bit darker here, is essentially just this piece, right? This piece here. Because we've eliminated this piece of it, okay? Now, this one is now a smaller audience, right? So on the one hand, you have a potential decrease in CPA from the fact that you have now eliminated some overlap, but the other thing that happened is that you reduced the reach of this audience, which can have a positive effect or an increase on CPA, right? So now those are the two things that you're balancing. Okay, so maybe you went even a step further and you did the same thing over here, right? Where you excluded this audience from this audience, and now you have this moon-shaped slice right here, and maybe the same thing happens. Yes, you might drop the CPA from eliminating the overlap, but you might have increased the CPA from basically constricting down to a narrow audience, right? And then now, the other potential downside of this scenario is that these individuals right here, you're now no longer targeting whatsoever because you've excluded both of them from the other. Where they overlap is now basically a no man's land, right? That is not being targeted at all. So that's potentially a problem because these might be, good potential customers right here. So, okay, in this scenario, what's the right move, right? I mean, another possibility you might have is you might say, all right, let's just, eliminate this. Let's just kind of give it some dotted lines here. Let's just eliminate this audience altogether, right? Just kind of erase some things here. Let's eliminate this audience altogether, given the fact that it's a higher CPA, right? Okay, so this one goes away, and now you've got just this one. So again, in this scenario, you've eliminated the overlap, right? You're no longer competing with yourself, so that could bring the CPA down. But assuming you need to make up that volume that's now missing, you basically now need to expand the size of this audience basically twofold, right? This 50K needs to go to 100K, right? So this needs to go to, let's make some room here. That needs to go to 100K. That massive increase in budget, that doubling of the budget, is absolutely going to have a huge impact on the CPA, because basically scaling, right? Remember from a past episode, this was one of the first ones we did. If you take this one audience and you scale it that much, there's two things that are going to happen, right? The first thing is OCPM is going to have to bid a lot more in order to spend a lot more. That's going to cause your CPA to go up. The second thing is, as you scale, remember that Facebook is basically already, the OCPM algorithm is already targeting preferentially the people that have the highest propensity to convert. So as you scale, you're again going down that stack ranked list, right? And each further incremental person down that list may be less likely to convert than the one before. So in this scenario, you're putting a lot of weight on this audience, and putting so much more budget behind it could have this massive increase in CPA, right? So the point of all this is basically to say that in this scenario, your original configuration, right, in terms of overall volume and return on ad spend and CPA, your original configuration might have been the best one, right? And it kind of depends, right? Because the way we had this before, if let's say we had just, maybe excluded one from the other and not excluded both from each other, you have this decrease in CPA from eliminating the competition. You have an increase in CPA from essentially reducing the size of the audience, right? And you have to kind of see where that nets out, right? It's hard to predict until you actually do this test what the impact of making that change is going to be. So you have to just kind of see, right? So our recommendation in this scenario, if you were concerned about the overlap, would be to sort of test incrementally, right? Rather than make broad sweeping changes like, pause this all together and then scale this up to 100K, probably not the right move. Excluding both of them from each other and probably doing more harm than good, probably not the right move. But testing incrementally, right? Maybe excluding, first of all, one from the other first, see where it nets out. If that looks good, then maybe exclude the other one from, the other one here, and then see how that looks, and then kind of go a piece at a time. But the point is just to say, again, that audience overlap has been made out to be kind of a boogeyman. And, the kind of conventional wisdom around audience overlap is that it's objectively bad in every scenario. And hopefully this illustrates that that's not always necessarily the case, right? That sometimes, diversifying your media spend across multiple audiences, even if they overlap to a reasonable degree, can be okay, right? So this is probably just going to be kind of a quick one today. I might touch on kind of one or two more things, but that's just meant to be a thought exercise to kind of give you a little something to think about. So and the other thing that we didn't talk about too is that the other option is to actually just look for new audiences altogether, right? So in this scenario, we have two different 1% lookalikes. Another option might be to increase to a 2% lookalike, right, on one of these, or one or both of them, to diversify the spend and basically grow the area of these circles, right? Maybe there's something else that overlaps not at all, right? Maybe there's over here a particular demographic, right? A demo. Whether that's age or gender, cultural affinity, whatever it happens to be, behavior, job title, could be anything, right? Or maybe there's another one over here, maybe it's smaller but still worth targeting, right? One of the key takeaways of this whole thing is that I will say from our experience, it is generally not a good idea to bet the farm on one audience bucket. Whether you're doing retargeting, having like website visitors in the past 1 to 7 days and then having another one that's like 8 to 14 days and so on, or having separate retargeting ad sets for engagement or just maybe just web visits versus add to carts, right? Basically having those different ponds to fish in is really important, because if you put all of your eggs in one basket, right, in this scenario where you say, nope, I'm not going to do this, right, I'm not going to do any of this, I'm just going to have this one thing and I'm going to try to scale this to the moon, you're probably going to have a bad time, right? No pool is inexhaustible. At a certain point, you're going to fish up all the salmon, and all that's going to be left is the little minnows, right? Well, let's get this guy here too. We left one standing. Okay, cool. So super turbo round episode. Yeah, we're right around 10 minutes. I'm gonna call it here. Hopefully you found that interesting. One thing I wanted to mention. So with our posting schedule, we are posting every week 3 new videos. This week I think is gonna be an exception, but expect every week 3 new videos on a new topic. If you have ideas for topics or you have things that you would like us to talk about, please don't hesitate to make a comment in the video. If you find this stuff interesting, educational, informative, entertaining, whatever, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. And as usual, thank you for watching. Hope you have a good weekend and catch you later.